All right, strap yourselves in because we are going deep today. Deep into, well, a comedic hurricane.
Sounds messy.
It is, kinda, but also fascinating. We're diving into an outline, actually, for the next episode of Brick Hardcheese, Private Eye.
Oh, I've heard of this one.
Yeah, it's fictional, but it's got this great, like, classic noir vibe, but, soaked in Florida sunshine.
A very specific vibe. I like it.
Right. And this episode, they're playing with this really interesting question. Like, what happens when political satire just slams right into, real anxieties?
Ooh, that's good, especially these days.
Exactly. I was thinking about you, actually, while prepping for this.
Oh, why's that?
Well, with how much you're always thinking about these intersections
Yeah.
between, like, storytelling and the stuff that really keeps us up at night.
True, true. And, I think what they do really well with this episode, at least from the outline,
Hmm.
is how they introduce the main guy, Brick Hardcheese.
Oh, he's fantastic.
He's got all the classic noir stuff, right?
Yeah.
That rumpled trench coat, the just world-weary cynicism. I bet there's a whiskey bottle hidden in his desk drawer somewhere.
Probably half empty by noon.
At least. But it's not all doom and gloom, They inject enough humor to keep it from getting too, well, depressing.
Yeah. Like, imagine a super gruff, gravelly voice saying something like, the only thing more predictable than a hurricane in Florida is a politician lying about campaign promises. It's that mix, that grit and wit that makes Brick so interesting. And speaking of interesting,
You're going to talk about the hurricane, aren't you?
had to. It's not just some random storm. It's like the engine for this whole conspiracy theory that just rips through Florida.
Oh, this is where things get good, right?
Right. You start hearing all these whispers about, get this, a democratic weather machine, like something straight out of a Bond villain's lair.
A weather machine, huh?
Yeah, and of course it can whip up hurricanes like it's nothing, all for, some secret political agenda.
Now, that is some juicy satire right there.
Mm.
It really plays into all those fears people have about, powerful people messing with things behind the scenes, especially with something like the weather. I mean, who can control that, right?
Exactly. And they introduced this character, Hurricane Harry. He's like the poster child for all those anxieties.
Okay, tell me about Harry. He sounds like my kind of guy.
Oh, he lives in a fallout shelter, but here's the kicker. It's made entirely out of pool noodles.
Full noodles. Now that's just brilliant.
Right. Instant signal that we're in for some absurdity. But also, it kind of pokes fun at all those, DIY conspiracy theories.
For sure. Like, got to protect yourself from the deep state, but only on a pool noodle budget.
Exactly. And Hurricane Harry, he's completely convinced the Democrats are using this weather machine to, wait for it, suppress voter turnout.
Oh, wow. They went there.
Oh, they went there. And his big proof, a super grainy VHS tape showing storm clouds, right? But get this, they're forming over a building clearly labeled DNC Secret HQ.
Classic misinformation tactics. A little bit of evidence, even if it's totally out of context, can be super convincing to the right audience.
It's almost like those edited videos you see online all the time. Cut the right footage, slap on some dramatic music, and boom, you've got proof for just about anything.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how we all got to this point.
Yeah.
So susceptible to that kind of manipulation, especially when it aligns with what we already believe.
So what does our hero Brick do with all this? Well, he does what any good cynical detective would do. He goes undercover. As a janitor.
Right, a janitor at the DNC headquarters.
Oh, yeah, trying to blend in, mop in hand, searching for clues about this weather machine that probably doesn't even exist.
You gotta love that visual.
Yeah.
I can already picture him bumping into things, trying to look inconspicuous.
Oh, and there's this scene where he's being chased by an intern who thinks Brick is some corporate spy for big oil.
That is hilarious. They managed to weave in some very real anxieties about energy and climate and make it funny.
And that chase, it leads him straight to this door, ominously labeled Project Tempest Control Room. Behind that door, the crown jewel of the whole satire, a giant weather machine.
Oh, come on. It gets better.
Oh, it gets so much better. We're not just talking some little gizmo. This thing is massive, with a giant joystick literally labeled Category 5 only.
You've got to be kidding me. They really went all out.
They did. It's like this caricature of how some people see powerful institutions,
Yeah.
controlling stuff way beyond our understanding. And to make it even funnier, there's a technician there super disgruntled.
What's he complaining about?
The machine's accuracy. They keep trying to hit Mar-a-Lago with a hurricane, but it always ends up veering off course and slamming into Alabama instead.
Oh my gosh, that's pure gold. So they're mocking the idea of pinpoint weather control and those conspiracy theories about, like, targeted political attacks.
All in one go. And then Brick comes face to face with the supposed mastermind, a high-ranking DNC operative.
Ooh, the plot thickens.
And her reason for this whole thing, surprisingly nuanced. She says they're not just controlling the weather, they're using it to force Florida to face climate change.
Interesting. Like a manufactured crisis to raise awareness, maybe force some action.
Exactly. But of course, Brick has the perfect comeback. You're not saving the planet, pal. You're just flooding retirement homes.
Ah, classic Brick. Cutting through the big talk right to the real-world consequences.
And then, the twist. They offered Brick a deal. Hush money, lifetime hurricane insurance, a golden ticket to a DNC fundraiser.
Wow, they're pulling out all the stops.
Oh yeah, they even mentioned vegan hors d'oeuvre as an extra incentive. Like, come on.
Poking fun at the elite there. Trying to sweep everything under the rug with a mix of, like, bribes and intimidation.
Spot on. But Brick, cynical but principled, he says no. He walks away with this flash drive labeled Storm Secrets, leaving us on a total cliffhanger.
Now that's how you leave them wanting more.
Yeah.
This is good stuff. You know, this episode outline, it's really hitting me how they use humor to tackle these heavy topics. Climate change, political stuff, you know, all the misinformation flying around.
It's like they took all that anxiety we're all feeling and spun it into this, like, comedic story. I was thinking about you while reading this, too.
Really? How come?
Well, because of how much you think about narratives and how they shape, well, everything.
You know.
Oh,
for sure. It makes you wonder about satire, right? Its role today with all the media we consume. I mean, think about shows like The Daily Show or even Last Week Tonight. They use humor to break down these complex issues, and it works.
Yeah. It's not just those big shows either. You see it everywhere. Podcasts, memes, those crazy Twitter threads that are somehow both funny and smart. It's like humor's become this way to sneak in serious commentary.
Totally. It's like a spoonful of sugar helps the, makes those tough conversations easier to swallow.
Right. The news can be so relentless sometimes. A little laughter, it's a good thing. Needed, even. And I think that's what makes Hurricane Harry so great. As a character, he's like this...
exaggerated version of all of us.
Yeah, kind of. All that confirmation bias, clinging to something totally outlandish, but part of you gets it.
Oh, absolutely. And that VHS tape he's waving around is proof. It's like this perfect symbol, for how easily we fall for stuff, especially if it confirms what we think.
Makes you think, how many real-life Hurricane Harrys are out there, just gobbling up those fake stories that spread like wildfire online?
It's a question we should all ask ourselves, honestly. Are we really thinking critically about the information we come across? Or just retreating into those echo chambers where everything agrees with us already?
It's so easy to get sucked into that, especially with social media. The algorithms are always showing you more of what you already like, It's almost like training us to think a certain way.
Yeah, and that's the scary part. When we lose that ability to think for ourselves, to spot the difference between what's true and what's not, well, then we're just letting ourselves be manipulated.
And that's why I find Brick so refreshing. Sure, he's cynical, but he's also skeptical. Really skeptical. He doesn't just take things at face value. He questions everything, looks for the evidence, follows the trail wherever it goes.
He embodies that critical thinking we need so badly right now. Not afraid to challenge those in power, to call out the BS, even if it means going against the flow.
And that's a good lesson for all of us, right? From this fictional story, I mean. Be more like Brick, be curious, be skeptical, and don't be afraid to ask those tough questions.
Because let's face it, in this world, information is power. And being able to think critically, that's our best defense.
Absolutely. Now, when we left off, Brick had just walked away with that flash drive.
Storm secrets, right? I have a feeling whatever's on that thing is going to blow this whole case wide open. Maybe even some of our own assumptions about truth and, everything. And we're back, almost at the end of our journey with this Brick Hardcheese outline. It's been, something else.
Yeah, quite a trip. Hurricanes, pool noodles, political satire, who knew it all go together?
Right. And our man Brick, he's at this crossroads now. He's got that flash drive, storm secrets. Whatever's on there, it could expose everything.
Or nothing, right? That's the thing about truth. Especially these days, it can be so hard to pin down.
It makes you think, those times you hear something and it's like, too good to be true, a crazy headline, some viral video, even just gossip spreading online.
It's those moments we need to remember Brick. He doesn't just believe everything he hears. He's skeptical, he digs for proof, and he's not afraid to question those in charge, even if it makes people uncomfortable. It's like that classic saying, right? If it sounds too good to be true. But then again, sometimes those crazy stories, the ones you can't believe, they end up having some truth to them, buried under all the hype and spin.
And that's where satire comes in. It takes these big, messy realities and makes us laugh at them. But at the same time, it forces us to ask some tough questions about ourselves, about the world.
And this Brick Hardcheese episode, it does that on so many levels. You've got the obvious humor, the weather machine with the joystick, but then there's the deeper stuff, the political games, how the media spins everything, all that anxiety about information.
But they're holding up this warped mirror to society, making us laugh but showing us the cracks too.
So as we wrap this up, I'm curious, what really stands out for you in all this? The humor, the political stuff, or that message about information, how easily we're manipulated?
It's all connected, isn't it? And I guess the question for all of us is, how does this crazy world of Brick Hardcheese, the detective, and the weather machine, how does it connect to our own lives? We're all dealing with this truth and lies stuff every day.
That's what makes these deep dives so important, right? It's not just about some fictional story. It's about giving us the tools to think for ourselves, to see through the noise and make sense of it all.
Exactly. We've explored a lot today. Satire, bias, how important it is to question everything, look for evidence, be wary of those stories that are trying to control us, not inform us.
So next time you're reading an article, scrolling online, even just talking to someone, remembering what we've learned here. Be curious, be skeptical, and don't be afraid to ask the hard questions.
Because in a world where information is power, being able to think critically is the most valuable thing we have.
That's all from us for this deep dive. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay curious.